Bite of truth. When AI hits the wall, autonomous tractors, LLM bubbles, and the $1.5 billion question.
While Silicon Valley celebrates Tesla's shiny new robotaxi permit in Arizona, a tractor company in Idaho is getting sued for forgetting how to be autonomous. That's right, Monarch Tractor promised fields of self-driving farm equipment and delivered expensive paperweights. This week, we're exploring the gap between AI's promises and its courtroom reality. I'm Sébastien, and this is Byte of Truth, where we cut through the hype to find what's actually happening in artificial intelligence. Today, 4 big stories. First, the autonomy paradox. Why self-driving vehicles keep crashing into legal walls. Second, the model wars, Google's million-token Gemini 3 versus the open-source rebels. Third, enterprise AI goes to work. Microsoft wants to manage your AI agents like employees, and a startup just raised $21 million to automate the most boring job on Earth. And fourth, the infrastructure gold rush. Why one company just raised $1.5 billion for data centers, and why TikTok is suddenly letting you turn down the AI. Let's dive in.
The autonomy paradox and AI bubble trouble.
Let's start with Monarch Tractor. An Idaho dealership is suing them for breach of contract, claiming the tractors they bought couldn't operate autonomously as promised. The lawsuit says the vehicles were, quote, unable to operate autonomously. This isn't a glitch. This is a fundamental gap between what was marketed and what was delivered. Sound familiar? It should. Because the same week, Tesla received its final ride-hailing permit in Arizona, the last regulatory box to check before launching their robotaxi service. Elon Musk promises a fleet of autonomous vehicles, transforming transportation forever. But here's the question. Is this a breakthrough, or is it just regulatory box checking? Arizona is a friendly testing ground. The real test is whether these vehicles can handle the messy reality of actual roads, actual weather, actual liability. A permit is permission. It's not proof. Now, let's talk bubbles. Clem DeLange, CEO of Hugging Face, dropped a provocative take this week. He says, "We're not in an AI bubble. We're in an LLM bubble." His argument? Everyone's obsessed with large language models, but the real future belongs to smaller, specialized models that actually solve specific problems. Meanwhile, Joe Weisenthal from the Odd Lots podcast has predictions about how the AI bubble will burst. He argues the economic impact goes way beyond billion-dollar funding rounds. The question isn't just who gets funded, it's who gets hurt when the hype cycle crashes. Retail investors, junior engineers whose jobs get automated, or the entire ecosystem betting on infinite growth? The pattern is clear. We keep conflating potential with performance, a permit with a product, a demo with a deployment. And when the gap gets too wide, people don't just get disappointed, they get lawyers.
Model Wars Gemini 3 Vs, the open source rebels.
Speaking of potential versus performance, Google just dropped Gemini 3 Pro, 1 million tokens of context. Sparse MoE architecture, that's mixture of experts, spelled MoE. Multimodal agentic workloads. The marketing is impressive. But here's what matters. Can it actually remember and reason over 1 million tokens? That's roughly 700,000 words, an entire novel. Most models forget what you said 3 paragraphs ago. Gemini 3 promises to remember everything. The question isn't whether the technology is impressive. It's whether anyone actually needs it. Right now, most use cases don't require million-token memory, but Google is playing chess, not checkers. They're building the infrastructure for agentic AI systems that can operate autonomously across documents, images, and code. But the open source world isn't sitting still. Researchers from the Harbin Institute of Technology released Unimo 2.0 Omni. Try saying that 3 times fast. It's an open-source multimodal MoE model based on Qwen 2.57b. It handles text, images, audio, and video, and it's completely open. This is the real battle. Not just bigger models, but more accessible ones. Google's betting on scale. The open source community is betting on flexibility. Who wins? Probably both, but in different ways. Now, for the engineers listening, let's get technical for a moment. There's a fascinating deep dive this week on focal loss versus binary cross-entropy. Standard BCE binary cross-entropy fails miserably on imbalanced datasets. If you're training a model to detect rare fraud cases, and 99% of your data is normal transactions, BCE will just learn to predict normal every time and call it a day. Focal loss fixes this by downweighting easy examples. It forces the model to pay attention to the hard cases, the edge cases, the rare but important ones. It's not just a mathematical tweak, it's a philosophical shift. Instead of optimizing for average performance, you optimize for meaningful performance. If you've ever wondered why your model fails on rare cases, stick around. Focal loss might be your new best friend.
Enterprise AI goes to work.
While researchers debate loss functions, Microsoft is solving a different problem. How do you manage an army of AI agents? Their answer: treat them like employees. Introducing Agent 365. It's a system to onboard, monitor, and performance review your AI bots. Yes, performance reviews for software, because apparently, what the world really needed was more paperwork, but make it digital. The idea isn't as absurd as it sounds. If you're deploying hundreds of specialized AI agents, one for customer service, one for data analysis, one for code review, you need to track their performance, their costs, their reliability. You need to know when they're failing, when they're hallucinating, when they need to be retrained or retired. But here's the provocative question. When we manage AI like humans, do we start expecting human-like accountability? Can you fire a bot for poor performance? And more importantly, who gets blamed when the bot screws up? The bot or the human who deployed it? Speaking of jobs, let's talk about engineering. MIT researchers just unveiled an AI agent that learns to use CAD software computer-aided design to create 3D objects from sketches. It's called Video CAD, and it could either replace junior engineers or augment senior ones. The demo shows the AI interpreting rough sketches and generating precise 3D models. It's impressive. But here's the nuance. CAD isn't just about drawing. It's about understanding manufacturing constraints, material properties, cost trade-offs. The AI can generate the model, but can it understand why that model won't work on the factory floor? This is the augmentation versus replacement debate. And the answer is always, it depends. On the task, on the human, on the context. Meanwhile, Google is pushing generative UIA framework that creates rich custom user interfaces from natural language prompts. You type "build me a dashboard for sales data," and it generates the interface, the charts, the interactive elements. Is this the end of front-end development as we know it? Probably not. But it is the end of front-end development as a purely manual craft. The future is prompt-driven design, with human designers curating and refining AI-generated interfaces. And then, there's Sphere. Andreessen Horowitz just led a $21 million Series A into AI-native text compliance software. Text compliance, the most boring, complex, lucrative application of AI imaginable. Sphere automates tax registration, calculation, filing, and remittance across jurisdictions. It's not sexy. It's not a chatbot that writes poetry, but it solves a real, expensive, painful problem. And that might be the most important trend in AI right now, moving from toys to tools.
The infrastructure gold rush and AI in the wild.
All those AI tools need infrastructure, and infrastructure is where the money is flowing. Lambda, an AI data center provider, just raised $1.5 billion. This comes right after a multi-billion-dollar deal with Microsoft. The bet is simple. Compute demand is exploding. Training models, running inference, storing data, it all requires massive amounts of specialized hardware. Lambda isn't building the models. They're selling the picks and shovels in this gold rush. And right now, picks and shovels are more valuable than gold. But here's the counter trend. TikTok just introduced a feature that lets users choose how much AI-generated content they want to see. A slider. From no AI to lots of AI. Think about what this means. TikTok is admitting that more AI isn't always better for user experience, that users might want to opt out, that the infinite feed of AI-generated slop might be turning people off. It's a rare moment of humility from a platform built on algorithmic addiction. And it raises a bigger question. Will other platforms follow? Or is this just a PR move to fend off regulation? Speaking of social AI, Quora's Poe platform now supports group chats, with up to 200 participants across different AI models. You can have a conversation where GPT-4, Claude, and Gemini are all in the same room, responding to each other and to humans. Is this the future of social? Or is it a digital asylum where bots outnumber people 7-1? The experiment is fascinating, but it also feels like a Black Mirror episode waiting to happen. Now, let's talk about AI in the wild, literally. Researchers used AI to detect molecular patterns of ancient life in fossils from Canada's Yukon Territory. They found evidence of life from 3.3 billion years ago, that's billion with a B. The AI analyzed chemical traces that human researchers missed. It found patterns in the noise. This is the promise of AI in science, not replacing human intuition, but augmenting it, seeing what we can't see. And finally, Japan's Fugaku supercomputer just created the most realistic virtual brain ever. Millions of neurons, simulated in real time, enabling step-by-step disease modeling. They're using it to study neurological disorders, test treatments, understand how brains actually work. It's not AGI, it's not a chatbot. It's fundamental science, accelerated by artificial intelligence. So what connects all these stories? It's the gap between what AI promises and what it delivers, between permits and performance, between bubbles and boring, useful tools. We're in a moment where the infrastructure is getting built $1.5 billion at a time, where the models are getting bigger, 1 million tokens at a time, but where the real value might be in the smallest, most mundane applications. Tax compliance, CAD assistance, detecting rare patterns in imbalanced datasets. The question isn't whether AI will transform everything, it's which parts, how quickly, and who gets left behind when the hype cycle meets the courtroom. This week's theme: reality is the ultimate loss function, and it's weighted heavily against hype. Like and subscribe. Share this episode with someone who needs to hear the unvarnished truth about AI. And if you have thoughts on the LLM bubble, autonomous tractors, or performance reviews for bots, find me on social media. Use the hashtag #ByteOfTruth. For Byte of Truth, I'm Sébastien. Keep questioning, keep building, and remember, the best AI is the one that actually works.